Have you ever struggled to believe something you haven't seen with your own eyes? It's a feeling we all know. But what if the thing you couldn't believe was so incredible, so world-changing, that it challenged everything you thought you knew? This is the story of a man named Thomas, a loyal friend, a practical thinker, and someone who would become known for his doubt. Our story begins in a time of great sorrow and confusion. Jesus, a teacher and friend who had promised a new beginning, had been crucified. His followers, once full of hope, were now scattered, hiding in fear. They locked themselves away in a small room, whispering in the dim candlelight, their hearts heavy with grief. They had lost their leader, their inspiration. The future they had dreamed of seemed to have died with him on the cross. Among them was Thomas. He wasn't just sad, he was shattered. He had left everything to follow Jesus. He had listened to every word, witnessed incredible acts, and believed in a brighter future. Now, all that was gone. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the sound of quiet weeping. Thomas stared at the floor, replaying his last memories, trying to make sense of the senseless. How could this have happened? Suddenly, a strange and wonderful event occurred. In the midst of their despair, Jesus appeared among them. Not as a ghost, but as real and solid as the walls around them. He spoke to them, his voice calm and reassuring. "Peace be with you." The disciples were stunned, their fear turning into overwhelming joy. They couldn't believe it. He showed them his hands and his side, the marks of his suffering now symbols of an impossible victory. It was truly him. He was alive. But there was one problem. Thomas wasn't there. He had been out, perhaps trying to clear his head, walking through the quiet streets, lost in his own grief. When he returned, the room was buzzing with an energy he couldn't understand. The others rushed to him, their faces alight with a joy he hadn't seen in days. "We have seen the Lord," they exclaimed, their voices filled with wonder. Thomas looked at his friends, at their excited faces, and his heart sank. He wanted to believe them, he truly did. But his practical mind, the part of him that needed evidence, just couldn't accept it. It sounded like a story born from grief, a desperate wish. "No," he said, his voice firm, shaking his head. "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." His words hung in the air. It wasn't that he didn't trust his friends. It was that the claim was just too monumental. He needed to see for himself. He needed proof that his mind could accept, not just a story that his heart wanted to be true. The other disciples were disappointed, but understood. They had seen, so they believed. Thomas had not. And so, he waited, caught between the hope his friends offered and the doubt that clouded his mind. A full week passed. It must have been the longest week of Thomas's life. He stayed with the other disciples, living in a strange tension. They were filled with a quiet, joyful certainty, while he was wrestling with his skepticism. Every time they shared a memory of Jesus' appearance, a part of him felt a pang of longing, a wish to share their faith, but his resolve held firm. He would not be swayed by emotion. He needed to see. Then, 8 days after the first appearance, they were all together again in the same locked room. The atmosphere was calm. They were talking, perhaps sharing a meal, when it happened again. Without a door opening, without a sound, Jesus was suddenly standing among them. He looked directly at Thomas, his eyes filled not with judgment, but with a deep, knowing compassion. "Peace be with you," he said again, his voice echoing the calm from a week before. Then, he turned his full attention to the one who had doubted. "Thomas," he said gently, "put your finger here, see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side." It was a direct invitation, an answer to the very conditions Thomas had set. The room was silent. All eyes were on Thomas, whose own eyes were wide with shock and awe. Jesus continued, his voice soft but powerful, "Stop doubting and believe." This was the moment of truth. Everything Thomas had been wrestling with, all his questions and his need for proof, was laid bare before him. Here was the evidence he had demanded, offered with love and understanding. He saw the marks, real and undeniable. He saw the teacher he had loved and lost, standing before him, alive and whole. Thomas didn't need to touch. Seeing was enough. The sight of his resurrected friend, the sound of his voice, the incredible reality of the moment washed over him, sweeping away every last trace of his doubt. In that instant, his world realigned. The grief and confusion vanished, replaced by a faith so profound, so certain, that it burst from his lips in a cry of pure adoration. "My Lord and my God," he exclaimed. It was more than just recognizing his friend. It was a declaration of faith, a complete surrender to the truth he now saw so clearly. He had demanded proof, and in receiving it, he found a belief deeper than he could have ever imagined. He had gone from the greatest doubter to a powerful believer in a single, transformative moment. Jesus looked at him with a gentle smile. "Because you have seen me, you have believed," he said. His words were not a rebuke, but an observation. Then, he offered a profound blessing for all who would come after, for all of us. "Blessed are those who have not seen, and yet have believed." This is the beautiful twist in the story of Thomas. His doubt wasn't a weakness, it was a pathway to a stronger faith. Because he questioned, because he needed to be sure, his final belief was unshakable. His story isn't just about doubt, it's about the journey to faith. It teaches us that it's okay to have questions, to seek answers. It shows that true faith isn't blind. It's a deep, personal conviction that can withstand any test. Thomas's experience transformed him forever. He was no longer the cautious, skeptical follower. He became one of the most passionate and dedicated messengers of the story he had once refused to believe. Tradition tells us he traveled far and wide, to distant lands, sharing the incredible news of the resurrection with a certainty born from his own personal encounter. His doubt had given him a unique and powerful testimony. He could look others in the eye and say, "I know it's hard to believe. I didn't believe it either, but I have seen him." The story of Thomas reminds us that our journey of faith is personal. Some of us believe easily, while others, like Thomas, need to wrestle with questions and doubts, and that's okay. The story encourages us to be honest about our uncertainties and to seek the truth with an open heart. It's a powerful message that faith isn't about having no questions, it's about what we do with them. So, the next time you find yourself struggling to believe, remember Thomas. Remember that your questions don't make you weak, they make you human. And like Thomas, through honest seeking, you might just find an answer more wonderful and life-changing than you could ever imagine. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores the powerful stories that shape our world.